Hey, tonight we're going to Boston, but not the Boston of tea parties and cobblestone history tours, not the postcard city of brownstones and autumn leaves. We're going to the edges, to the working docks of Charlestown, to the forgotten warehouses of Southie back in 1990. A city caught between its past and its future, where the air smells of salt from the harbor, diesel from the trucks, and the faint, metallic tang of ambition. Imagine standing on a corner under the elevated Orange Line tracks as a train rattles overhead, shaking the dust from the steel girders. The light is gray. A foghorn moans from the harbor, a lonely sound that seems to get lost in the brick canyons of the city. And maybe, if you press your ear to the cold, damp brick of a certain corner tavern, you can hear the low, patient hum of a plan being polished. A sound like a key being slowly, carefully filed to fit a lock it was never meant to open. Somewhere in that tavern, a man named Mickey Flanagan is watching the condensation trail down the side of his glass of ice water. He's a driver for an armored truck company, a ghost in a green uniform, but in this tavern, under the dim light, he's someone else. He understands the city's rhythms, its secret passages, its sleepy, unguarded moments. The clock on the wall ticks, each second a small metallic click in the quiet room, but Mickey is on a different kind of time. He's listening. To the tired sighs of the men around him, to the clink of glasses, to the unspoken weariness that hangs in the air like old smoke, and he's about to set a plan in motion that is so breathtakingly simple, so insultingly bold, it feels less like a crime and more like a quiet correction. A man taking back what he figures the world owes him. You probably wouldn't notice Mickey on the street, but if you sat in this room with him, you'd feel the unnerving gravity of his stillness. You'd find yourself holding your breath just to see if he was holding his too. So, before we begin our journey into the gray heart of this Boston morning, if this kind of quiet, late-night story is for you, take a moment. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Adjust the light on your screen. Let your body feel heavy in your chair or in your bed. And let's walk into the patient, calculating world of this thing together. The tavern smells of fried fish, spilled beer, and the damp wool of coats drying by the radiator. A faded photograph of the 1986 Red Sox hangs crookedly on the wall, a constant, silent reminder of a dream that was almost realized. The place is called The Anchor. It's the kind of bar that feels more like a waiting room than a destination. A low brick building on a street where the streetlights always seem to be flickering, casting long, dancing shadows. Mickey Flanagan sits in a booth near the back, the one with the cracked vinyl. He has a way of being still that makes him almost invisible. He's not a big man. He's in his 50s, with hands that are scarred and calloused from a life of hard work, first on the docks, now behind the wheel of a truck that is essentially a moving cage. His eyes are the color of the Boston sky in winter, pale, gray, and they seem to see right through the noise and chatter to the quiet, fragile machinery of things. He rarely speaks, but when he does, men lean in. His voice is low, a soft gravel, and he uses words like a carpenter uses nails, sparingly and only where they're needed. Tonight, the usual tired silence of the anchor is different. It's charged with a new energy. An idea has taken root in the quiet soil of Mickey's mind, and it's growing. The idea was born out of years of observation, of driving the same routes day after day, week after week, of watching the city sleep and wake. He's noticed a flaw in the system, a moment of vulnerability, a seam in the fabric of security that everyone else is too busy or too honest to see. It happens every morning, at the same time, at the same bank. A 10-minute window, a tiny, predictable gap in the armor of a multi-million-dollar operation. The door of the anchor swings open, letting in a gust of cold, damp air that smells of the harbor. A younger man walks in, shaking the rain from his jacket. This is Kevin. He works for the same company as Mickey, Loomis Fargo. He's a guard, the one who rides in the back. He's got a young family, a mortgage that's too big, and the kind of quiet desperation in his eyes that Mickey recognized instantly. Kevin has debts, the kind that make a man's hands shake when he signs a check. He sees Mickey in the back booth and gives a small, almost imperceptible nod before ordering a drink at the bar. He doesn't join him. Not yet. This is part of their dance, a careful choreography of distance. This was Mickey Flanagan, the ghost in the machine, the architect of a plan born from a lifetime of being overlooked. He ruled this small corner of the world not with threats, but with a deep, unnerving understanding of human weakness. He was about to apply that same quiet pressure to an armored truck in broad daylight. The silence he cultivates is a tool. It makes other men nervous. It makes them talk too much. It makes them reveal things they didn't intend to. The conversation, when it happens, is later. Not in the bar, but in the alley behind it, next to a dumpster overflowing with cardboard boxes. The rain has stopped, but the ground is slick. The new guy on dispatch starts Monday, Kevin says, his voice low, his breath fogging in the cooled air. He doesn't know the routes by heart yet. He'll be reading from the sheet. Mickey just nods, his gaze fixed on a puddle reflecting the flickering streetlight. He's thinking, calculating. The new dispatcher is a variable, a good one. The manifests, the Tuesday morning run, after the holiday weekend. What's the usual load? Kevin swallows. It's heavy, always heavy. Maybe 2 million, maybe more. Mickey looks at him then, his gray eyes seeming to absorb the dim light. He says, maybe. And that one word hangs in the air, full of possibility, full of danger. We'll need a driver, someone who knows the back roads better than the city mappers. Sully? Kevin asks. Mickey considers this. Sully, a hot-headed kid from Dorchester with a lead foot and a mouth that never stops. He's a risk, but he's also the best wheelman in 3 counties. Tell him I want to talk to him. Not here. Somewhere quiet.
After Kevin leaves, Mickey doesn't go home. He walks. He walks for miles through the sleeping neighborhoods of the city. He passes the quiet, darkened houses, the parks empty under the moon. He ends up at the waterfront, looking out at the dark, churning water of the harbor. This city is laid out before him, a sprawling grid of lights and shadows, a promise he intends to break. He feels the weight of his plan, not as a burden, but as an anchor, something solid and real in a world that has always felt flimsy. He thinks he sees a car, parked at the end of the pier, its engine off. It could be anyone, it could be nothing, but he knows in the deep, quiet part of his mind that he's being watched, not by the police, not yet, by the city itself, by the old ghosts of forgotten criminals and failed plans. When you plan to steal from the heart of a city, the city itself starts to pay attention. He sits on a cold, wet bench, the city spread before him. The first hints of dawn are painting the eastern sky a pale, bruised purple. A sanitation truck rumbles by, its air brakes hissing. Someone's bad luck or someone's bad decision. Mickey's pager, an old, reliable piece of technology, buzzes silently in his pocket. A single number. Kevin's signal. Sully is in. Mickey stares out at the water. This isn't about the money, not really, not anymore. It's about the quiet, beautiful perfection of the machine he is building. It's about being the ghost who can finally, for one brief, shining moment, make the entire world see him. He slips the pager back into his pocket and starts the long walk back. Slower now, measured. By the time he reaches his own quiet street, the sun is up. He sees a police car cruise by, slow and deliberate. He glances at the officer behind the wheel, a young detective named Moran, a man with sharp eyes and a reputation for being relentless. Moran doesn't look at him, but Mickey knows he's been seen. The other side of the board is starting to arrange its pieces. He thinks about the details, not just the route, not just the timing, the details no one else would think of, the specific brand of coffee the dispatcher drinks, and the fact that he always takes his break at 9:15 a.m. to get a fresh cup. The way the lock on the side door of the truck sometimes sticks in damp weather, requiring an extra noisy jiggle to open. The blind spot in the radio signal in the tunnel just before the bank. Because when you're about to make an armored truck vanish in the middle of a Tuesday morning, you need more than a plan. You need a deep and abiding faith in the small, forgotten details, the tiny cracks in the system where a ghost can slip through unnoticed. The week leading up to the heist is a study in stillness. On the surface, nothing changes. Mickey Flanagan continues to drive his route. He drinks his coffee from a thermos, eats his sandwich at lunch, nods to the other drivers. He is the very picture of a man worn down by routine, a man invisible in his own life. But beneath the surface, a delicate and dangerous machine is being assembled. Each piece is chosen with the meticulous care of a bomb maker. There's Sully, the driver. Mickey meets him not in a bar, but at a dog track in Revere, a place of faded glamour and constant desperate motion. Sully is all nervous energy, his eyes darting from the track to Mickey and back again. He smells of cheap cologne and cigarettes. "Kevin said you had a job," Sully says, trying to sound casual, but his voice is a little too high. Mickey doesn't look at him. He watches the mechanical rabbit glide along the rail. "I have a question," Mickey says, his voice calm, cutting through the noise of the crowd. "You take the I-93 south out of the city at 9 a.m. A truck stalls in the right lane just before the exit. A fender bender happens in the left lane 2 minutes later. The tunnel is blocked. How do you get to Dorchester in under 15 minutes? Sully stops fidgeting. He stares at Mickey. This isn't a question about a job. It's a test. He thinks for a long moment, his eyes tracing invisible lines on the ground. Service Road. The old one, behind the paper factory. Cops don't even know it's still paved. Comes out on the side street 2 blocks from the bridge. Mickey gives a slow, deliberate nod. Be ready on Tuesday, and walks away, leaving Sully standing there, the roar of the crowd fading into a distant hum. Then there's the switch vehicle. Not a flashy car, a van. A dull, forgettable blue van, the kind a plumber would drive. It belongs to a cousin of a friend, a man who is going to be on vacation in Florida for 2 weeks. The van is parked in a long-term lot at the airport, a place of perfect anonymity, surrounded by 1,000 other forgotten vehicles. And there is the law. Detective Moran. He's a new kind of cop in a city full of old ones. He's young, college-educated, and he believes in data, in patterns. He doesn't rely on corner store informants. He relies on computer printouts and traffic analysis. He's noticed a statistical anomaly, a series of minor, seemingly unrelated traffic incidents that have happened on Tuesday mornings for the past month. A stalled car here, a fender bender there. They look like nothing, random city noise. But to Moran, a pattern, no matter how faint, is a whisper. And he's learned to listen to the city's whispers. Moran doesn't know what's coming, but he feels it. A subtle shift in the city's rhythm. He starts spending his mornings in an unmarked car, parked in a spot with a long view of the financial district, just watching, waiting for the whisper to become a voice. Mickey knows about Moran. He's seen the car. He's noted its position. He's factored the detective into his calculations. Moran is not a problem. He's a variable. And every variable can be controlled. On the Monday before the heist, an anonymous tip is called into the police department about a suspicious vehicle parked near Moran's observation spot. A bomb threat. By the time the bomb squad clears the vehicle, a beat-up old station wagon with a box of old clothes in the back, Moran has lost 3 hours. The rhythm has been broken. A subtle message has been sent. The night before the heist, Mickey doesn't sleep. He sits in his small, tidy apartment in a worn armchair, and he walks through the plan in his mind over and over again. He sees every turn, every traffic light, every second. He visualizes the transfer of the money bags from the armored truck to the blue van.
He visualizes Sully's route through the city's hidden arteries. He visualizes Kevin, his partner, standing on the street, his face a mask of confusion. His wife Mary finds him sitting there in the dark. She doesn't ask what he's thinking about. She's lived with his silences for 30 years. She knows the shapes of them. "You're 1,000 miles away," she says, her voice soft. He turns to look at her, his face illuminated by the pale glow of the streetlights outside. He says, "No," and his voice sounds more honest than it has in months. "I'm right here. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm right here." He is not thinking about the money. He is thinking about the clean, beautiful lines of the plan, a plan that is about to unfold in the bright, unforgiving light of day. He stands up and goes to the window, looking out at the sleeping city. It doesn't yell. It whispers. And tomorrow morning, he is going to whisper back, a single, life-altering word, and the whole city, whether it knows it or not, is going to listen. The morning air is cool and damp, with a low-lying haze that softens the edges of the city. It's a Tuesday, just another Tuesday. In the Loomis Fargo depot, the armored trucks are rumbling to life, their diesel engines coughing in the pre-dawn chill. Mickey Flanagan and Kevin are in their truck, running through the pre-trip checklist. The routine is so familiar, so ingrained, it feels like a dream. The clank of the heavy doors, the crackle of the radio, the weight of the uniform. Mickey is behind the wheel. His hands are steady, his heart is calm. He is a man who has rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in the silent theater of his mind. He pulls the truck out of the depot and into the flow of morning traffic. The city is waking up. The first rays of sun are glinting off the glass towers of the financial district.
They make their first few stops: a department store, a small bank. The back of the truck begins to fill with sealed bags of money. Kevin works in the back, logging each pickup, his movements practiced and efficient. But inside, his heart is a frantic, unsteady drum. He keeps glancing at the small, simple clock on the wall of the cargo bay, counting down. From his unmarked car, a few blocks from his usual spot, Detective Moran watches the city's morning ballet. Commuters rushing, delivery trucks double parking, the slow, predictable crawl of traffic. The bomb threat yesterday has him on edge. It felt wrong, too neat, a distraction. He sips his coffee and scans the radio frequencies, listening for anything out of the ordinary. He feels like a fisherman who can feel a storm coming, even though the sky is clear. Mickey drives. He doesn't speed. He doesn't lag. He is a river flowing with the current. He navigates the streets of Boston with an easy, unthinking familiarity. He makes a left turn, then a right. He enters the tunnel, and for 45 seconds, the radio cuts out, replaced by a soft hiss of static. The blind spot. He glances at his watch. Perfect. They arrive at the bank. It's on a busy corner, a place of constant motion. Mickey pulls the truck up to the curb. The spot is waiting for him, exactly as it always is. He puts the truck in park and turns off the engine. The sudden silence is jarring. "All right," Mickey says into the intercom, his voice flat, emotionless. "Your stop." In the back, Kevin takes a deep breath. He unbolts the inner door, then the outer door. He steps out onto the sunny sidewalk carrying an empty canvas bag. The bright light makes him squint. He locks the door behind him, following procedure. He gives a quick, practiced look up and down the street. Everything looks normal. He doesn't look at Mickey. He can't. He walks toward the heavy glass doors of the bank. This is it, the point of no return. Inside the truck, Mickey waits. He counts the seconds. He watches Kevin disappear into the bank. Then he watches the traffic light on the corner. He watches a woman push a stroller. He watches a man read a newspaper on a bench. He absorbs the ordinary details of an ordinary morning. He counts to 60. Then he takes the key from the ignition. He places it in a small magnetic box under the dashboard. He opens his door, steps out, and closes it gently. He doesn't lock it.
He walks around the front of the truck and continues down the street at a normal, unhurried pace. He doesn't look back. A block away, the dull blue plumber's van is waiting, its engine idling. Sully's behind the wheel, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He sees Mickey approaching. He gives a short, sharp nod. Mickey gets in the passenger side. "Go," Mickey says, his voice quiet. Sully pulls the van out into traffic. He circles the block. As they approach the corner where the armored truck sits, silent and patient, another man, the fourth member of their small crew, gets out of the van. He's a former Loomis driver Mickey fired years ago, a man with a grudge and the exact same height and build as Mickey. He is wearing a spare uniform. He walks briskly to the armored truck, gets in, finds the key, and starts the engine. Detective Moran, miles away, hears a call come over the radio. A minor fender bender in the tunnel, right at the start of the morning rush. Then another call. A stalled truck on the expressway. Coincidence? Just city noise? But the hair on the back of his neck stands up. He starts his car and begins to drive, not knowing where he's going, just following a cold, insistent feeling in his gut.
Kevin finishes his business in the bank. The transaction takes exactly 7 minutes. He walks back out into the bright sunshine, the money bag now heavy in his hand. He looks toward the curb where the truck was parked. The space is empty. He stops. His blood runs cold. For a second, he thinks he's made a mistake. Wrong corner? Wrong street? But no, this is the spot. The truck is gone. He scans the street, his eyes wide, his heart hammering against his ribs. He sees nothing. No sign of an accident, no police, just an empty space at the curb where $2 million used to be. The truck, the money, and Mickey Flanagan have vanished in broad daylight. The alley behind the old cannery smells of rust and stagnant water. It's a forgotten place, a dead end where the city dumps its trash. The blue van pulls in, followed closely by the Loomis armored truck. The moment the trucks stop, the work begins. It's a silent, frantic ballet of motion. Sully and the other crew member jump out. Mickey directs them with quiet hand signals. They don't have much time. The 10-minute window is closing. They work with a desperate efficiency. The back of the armored truck is opened. The heavy bags of cash are passed from the truck to the van, a human chain of greed and adrenaline. The bags are heavy, awkward. One of them splits open and a cascade of worn $20 bills spills onto the grimy pavement. No one says a word. They scoop the money up, stuffing it back into the bag. They transfer every last bag. The empty armored truck now sits like a hollow metal shell. The man in the spare uniform gets back behind the wheel. His job is to drive it a few miles away and abandon it in a public parking garage, a place where it will sit for hours, maybe even a day, before anyone notices. Mickey gets back in the blue van with Sully. "Go," he says, "the route we talked about." Sully pulls the van out of the alley, leaving the armored truck behind. He drives, not with his usual reckless speed, but with a tense, focused calm. He navigates the city's back roads, the service alleys, and forgotten streets he knows so well. He is a ghost, piloting a ghost ship through a sleeping city that is wide awake. Meanwhile, on the corner outside the bank, Kevin is playing his part. After a few minutes of staged confusion, he finds a payphone and calls the Loomis dispatch. His voice is a perfect blend of panic and disbelief. "It's gone," he says. "The truck is gone. Mickey's not answering his radio." The dispatch office explodes into a controlled chaos. Alarms are raised. Procedures are enacted. The first patrol cars arrive at the bank. They find Kevin, a shaken and believable victim, standing on the sidewalk. He tells his story. He went in, he came out. The truck was gone. It's a simple, impossible story. Detective Moran hears the call go out. An armored truck is missing. He feels a cold dread mixed with a strange, exhilarating sense of confirmation. This is it, the thing he's been feeling. The whisper has become a scream. He speeds toward the scene, his mind racing, trying to piece together the fragments. The stalled cars, the bomb threat, the missing truck. It's a pattern, a deliberate, intelligent pattern. This isn't a random act of violence. This is a plan. By the time Moran arrives, the scene is already a swarm of blue uniforms and flashing lights. He talks to Kevin, his eyes searching the guard's face for any flicker of deceit. He finds none. Kevin is either the best actor in Boston or he's telling the truth. The driver, Moran says, "What do you know about him?" "Mickey," Kevin says, his voice wavering. "He's just Mickey. Quiet, does his job, been here forever." Moran gets a photo of Mickey Flanagan. He looks at the face of the man who has just made $2 million disappear. It's a plain, forgettable face. The face of a man you would pass on the street 1,000 times and never see. The face of a ghost. The blue van arrives at a garage in a quiet residential neighborhood. The garage belongs to Sully's uncle, who thinks his nephew is just storing some old furniture. The van is pulled inside and the heavy door is closed. For the first time since morning, the crew is out of sight. The three men, Mickey, Sully, and the fourth man, stand there in the dim light of the garage surrounded by bags of money. The air is thick with the smell of gasoline and their own sweat. It's a mountain of cash, more money than any of them have ever seen. They have done it. The impossible, perfect plan has worked. But Mickey isn't celebrating. He is watching the other two men. He sees the look in their eyes, the greed, the nervous energy. He sees Sully reach for one of the bags, his hands trembling. "Don't touch it," Mickey says, his voice low and cold. It cuts through the thick, excited air like a knife. Sully freezes. "What? It's ours, ain't it?" "The money needs to cool off. So do we. We don't touch it. We don't spend it. We don't talk about it. We go home and we become ghosts again for a long time. When it's safe, everyone gets their share." The other man nods, but Sully hesitates. The raw physical presence of the money is too much. It's a siren call. Mickey sees the hesitation. He sees the weakness, and in the quiet, calculating part of his mind, he pulls out his mental ledger. He makes a small, invisible mark next to Sully's name. The abandoned armored truck is found a day later. It's clean. No prints, no signs of forced entry. The police are baffled. The media goes into a frenzy. It's the story of the decade, the ghost heist. The perfect crime. The investigation, led by Moran, hits a wall. Mickey Flanagan has disappeared. His apartment is empty. His wife, Mary, claims she hasn't seen him, that she thought he was on a fishing trip. Kevin, the guard, is questioned for hours, but his story never changes. He passes a polygraph test. Sully and the other man have alibis. They were working their regular, low-paying jobs that morning. The city is buzzing with the story. In the bars and diners, everyone has a theory. But the trail is cold. The money is gone, and Mickey, the quiet man no one ever noticed, has become a legend. But the perfect crime is a myth. A machine with human parts will always, eventually, break down, and the first gear to slip is Sully. A week after the heist, Sully can't help himself. The money is sitting there, in that quiet garage, calling to him. He thinks Mickey won't notice. He takes a small bundle, just a few thousand. He goes to a casino and then to a high-end car dealership. He buys a brand new bright red sports car, a flashy, beautiful, monumentally stupid mistake. He pays in cash. He parks the car on the street outside his apartment building. It shines under the streetlights, a beacon of his newfound wealth. He thinks it's a symbol of his success. In reality, it's a tombstone. Detective Moran hasn't given up. He is running background checks on every Loomis employee, every known associate, every low-level criminal with a history of robbery. He's looking for a ripple, any disturbance in the quiet surface of the city's underworld. And then he finds it. A report from a luxury car dealership. A young man named Sully, a known associate of local criminals, has just paid cash for a $60,000 car. Moran looks at Sully's file. He's a small-time hood with no job history that could explain that kind of money. Moran feels a jolt of electricity. He has his first thread. Mickey hears about the car, of course. He has ears everywhere. He hears it from a bartender who heard it from a bookie who saw Sully flashing a roll of cash. The news hits Mickey like a physical blow. The rage he feels is cold and quiet. It's not about the money Sully took. It's about the sloppiness, the disrespect for the plan, for the beautiful, perfect machine. Sully has become a liability, a loose end, a noisy deer in a silent clockwork. Mickey makes a phone call from a payphone, his voice calm, almost gentle. He tells Sully they need to move the money. He tells them to meet at the garage. Sully arrives that night, full of nervous swagger. He walks into the dark garage, expecting to see Mickey. He never walks out. Moran's team, who had started tailing Sully, finds his brand-new red sports car still parked outside his apartment a week later. They find his body a few weeks after that, in a shallow grave in the woods upstate. The web is being drawn. Moran now has a body. He connects Sully to the heist. He starts looking at Sully's known associates. He finds the link to Kevin, the guard, and he finds a dozen faint old connections to a quiet, retired longshoreman who became an armored truck driver, a man named Mickey Flanagan. Kevin feels the net tightening. He sees Moran's unmarked car outside his house. He gets calls where the person on the other end just hangs up. The weight of the secret is crushing him. He hasn't seen a dime of the money, but he's drowning in the fear. He agrees to meet Mickey one last time, in the same alley behind the anchor where it all began. The air is cold. Kevin is shaking, and not just from the chill. "The cops were at my house," Kevin says, his voice a frantic whisper. "They're asking about Sully. They're asking about you, Mickey." Mickey stands in the shadows, his face unreadable. He looks at Kevin, at the raw terror in his eyes. He sees a man who is about to break, another liability, another noisy part in his silent machine. "You need to disappear for a while, Kevin. I know a place you can go, a place where you'll be safe." Kevin looks at Mickey, a desperate hope in his eyes. He nods. He trusts Mickey. It's the last mistake he will ever make. One by one, the threads of the perfect heist are snipped. The fourth man, the one who drove the truck from the scene, is found dead of an apparent overdose. Moran knows it's not an overdose, it's another cleanup. He is watching a ghost erase its own tracks. He has a case full of bodies, a mountain of circumstantial evidence, but he has nothing that directly ties Mickey Flanagan, the man who has once again vanished, to any of it. The money, the $2 million, becomes a curse. It sits in a dozen hidden places across the city, in a false wall in a basement, inside an old oil drum in a warehouse, buried in coffee cans. It is untouchable. It is a ghost. The fortune they stole bought nothing but fear and death. Mickey Flanagan becomes a legend, a cautionary tale whispered in the bars of Boston. The man who orchestrated the perfect crime and then had to destroy everyone who knew about it. Some say he fled the country with a portion of the money. Some say he's still living in Boston, under a new name, a quiet old man who no one would ever look at twice. Moran never stopped looking for him. The case became his obsession. Even after he retired, he would sometimes pull out the old file, stare at the grainy photograph of Mickey's plain, forgettable face, and wonder. He had solved the crime in his own mind. He knew every step, every player, but he could never prove it. The ghost was too quiet, too careful. The truth is, the story doesn't really have an ending. It just stops. It fades into the noise of the city, leaving behind a cold, quiet mystery. It's a story about a man who wanted to be seen, and who succeeded so perfectly that he had to spend the rest of his life making sure no one ever saw him again. So, wherever you are tonight, listening to the sound of my voice, let the story of Mickey Flanagan and his vanished fortune drift away. Let the gray streets of Boston fade into the quiet darkness of your room. Imagine the money, no longer a treasure, but just pieces of paper sitting in the dark, cold earth. Its power is gone. It is just a memory, a secret that the city keeps.
The roar of the traffic, the rattle of the trains, the moan of the foghorns, they all fall silent. All that's left is the stillness. A stillness that holds the echo of a perfect plan and the long, quiet fallout that followed. The city breathes. Its secrets are safe for another night. And you can let your own worries, your own plans, your own noisy thoughts fall silent as well. There is nothing left to calculate, nothing left to solve. There is only this moment, this quiet, this breath. Let your body grow heavy, your mind grow still. Let sleep find you, like a ghost slipping through a crack in the door, silent and welcome. Sleep well. Dream deeply. I will see you in the next one.